Dude,
You
I'm not
just said
ready.
you weren't ready.
I'm not ready at all.
I'm not ready, dude. I'm ready. I'm not ready.
I'm
You
not
said you were
ready.
born ready.
Dude, Yossef,
I'm not ready.
you have anxiety right now over doing a PowerPoint. I have anxiety just making sure all this shit works. Cause like I spent a good chunk of time Sunday just jerry rigging all this shit.
I'm just chilling.
Yeah, and then Mitch just kind of shows up as like, oh, you guys are a bunch of bitches. Yeah, I swear to God. I swear to God. I swear to fucking God, if you guys have outdone your shit. Mitch, you good?
So funny. Oh shit!
What's the problem?
I wasn't expecting that, dude.
You good?
Oh my god, that's fucking great.
What's the problem here?
I fucking love that picture. So
It
much,
is
dude.
it is one of those photos
Oh
that
my god.
I will never take another like better photo in my entire life. This is the peak. This is the best photo I'll ever take. But with that, welcome to this episode of This Episode Podcast, where today Josh isn't here, so we just decided to continue our top 10 kind of shtick. Or
yeah, we're taking a
how
break
much
from
was
Cowboy Bebop because
how much was yours, Mitch? Last time, like 23 or so.
25.
Yeah, so
25.
instead of doing 25 again, me and Yossef just decided to split it. So I'm gonna do my top 10, and then Yossef's gonna go through his top 10. So yeah. And if you're wondering where Josh is, don't worry. It doesn't matter. We have his towel. Say hi, towel. Thank you, towel. All right. But how about we get started? Mitch, you excited?
I'm excited to see one, if I agree with any of your picks, and two, if I know any of your picks. And I'm nervous that one of you are gonna have some really shit characters on here. So
well, Yossef,
100%. 100%. You're gonna hate like a few of mine. 100%.
Oh, if Zenetsu is in your top 10, dude. Oh, I forgot about that little shit.
There's
100%.
Yossef sent me his just so I can get this all set up. So like I already know like some of his, and there was like one that actually shocked me. I was like, whoa. And I couldn't believe it.
I think I know which one it was.
Yeah. So, but
I'm gonna pull up my top 10 just for comparison.
Yeah, I went for yours just to make sure we didn't have like similar ones, but I think there's like one that I took from yours. But starting off, I just want to do some honorable mentions. You got Kazuma from Konosuba.
Yeah, that's a fucking great pick.
So with these honorable mentions, it's kind of the same exact thing you said for your list, Mitch. It's just characters that I enjoy, but I like them just because they have a dynamic with other casts. So Kazuma is definitely a prime example of that. I like him and his group and their entire relationship and how kooky everything gets when they're all together. So, and he's not like the normal isekai character. He's just kind of a scumbag when he wants to be a scumbag. He's a complete pervert, and it's just hilarious at some scenes. So, shout out to Kazuma for changing up the norms.
Yeah.
I
think. Oh, sorry.
Well, you want to comment on it?
I was gonna say the thing I like about Kazuma is that he's the protagonist, but he's completely different than any other protagonist we've seen in that genre. Mm-hmm. I think it's also because he is it is just a complete shithouse of an anime. Like nothing makes sense. It's a complete comedy. So he's the perfect role to fit that main character.
As soon as like stuff like kind of gets a little serious in that show, next thing you know, they're kicking like the dude's like skull around, like the Death Knight or whatever, all around. So definitely a good one. But next up for honor mentions, Eins on Goal from Overlord.
You want to try that one again?
No, that's the best you're gonna get from me because I don't know how to. I even know how you spelt his name. I had to Google it like 16 times.
Oh, down.
Yeah. He's definitely a really cool leader. I just like how everyone treats him like an absolute god, even though it's just a normal dude in a skeleton body, pretty much. He tries to play like a human part, but then he slowly kind of loses himself to like his status, and I find it pretty enjoyable to see him try to balance both sides of himself. And I'm sure Yossef enjoys what was it? My guess you enjoyed the butler guy a lot. his servant dude.
Yeah, I really like the butler because I think it was in the second season it highlighted him a lot more when
Mhm.
you're like more in like the town and stuff like that. I mean, if you know, you know. If you watched it, you know what I'm talking about. Um, I like those more sidekick type characters because they have their own like history and they have to like work a bit harder to kind of build a name for themselves. But this butler dude, he's just so badass.
Dude, he
I like
just
that
one
one.
taps everybody. It's great.
Yeah, he's super cool. I like him, and then the one chick, when they did the 2v2 at the graveyard in the first season. I don't remember her name,
Oh,
but
like
she
the
was also
bandit
badass.
girl or like the murderer chick or
It was one of Ainz's
oh,
servants. I
servants,
don't
okay.
remember her name.
No, I just
But,
remember like probably like one of my favorite scenes from Overlord is when like this one like murder lady killed like a family like near him or something or somebody he was trying to protect, and next thing you know he switches back to like his sorcerer mode, and he just completely was like, I don't even need to use a weapon against you. And he just proceeded to just hug this assassin girl, and she just slowly got squished, and just the
oh,
panic in
I
her
remember
eyes and
that.
stuff. It's
Mm,
such it's so dark, and it was just so good to show like the power difference with Ainz.
really satisfying to see
It
that
was very
too.
satisfying too, because fuck that assassin lady.
Like
But
that beach.
but yeah, Overlord, pretty solid. You just gotta get past the fact that the main dude's a skeleton.
I was about to say he's the reason why I haven't watched the show.
Yeah,
So I hate his character design.
Well, you know, honestly, and surprisingly, for as much as he's the main character, he's like not even the main character. Like it focuses a bit on him more like in half of the first season, but after that, there's so much more world building that he like really takes a back seat in most of the show.
yeah. I haven't watched
He's
through
there, but
I
yeah.
haven't watched season 4 yet, but I'm assuming it gets really, really democratic with like all the different kingdoms and stuff. So
Mm,
I don't know.
probably.
I haven't had time to watch it. But moving on,
Me neither.
you got L from Death Note, which I originally like. Dude, it took me forever to make this godforsaken list because I just had like the list of people I wanted on there, but then I already had like a top 11. I was like, God bless America. But yeah, the reason why I like L so much is because the back and forth between him and Light, and that was like the whole like selling point of Death Note, just to see who can one up each other and ultimately who would win at the end. So
L
that's
is
why he's not on the list completely.
I don't want to spoiler I don't want to spoil your list, but is L higher than Light?
Hmm?
You
Never
mean the
mind.
other way around?
I don't
Yeah.
want to spoil. He is
Well,
so.
no, yeah, my list. I don't have any repeats from shows.
Oh,
So
so Light's so
this is the only Death Note character is going to be on this.
okay. So you like L more than Light?
Yes,
Okay.
because well, me like my brother enjoyed Light a lot. He was like Team Light, so I was like going on Team L just to shit talk him a little bit. So yeah, I was like just because of that too. That made me really enjoy Death Note and our conversations about it.
Okay.
But yeah, Light is just or L is just completely weird. He sits like a absolute savage, just picking up food like this kind of shit, just eating cherries and shit and cake all the time. So yeah, he's really
Totally.
smart and tactical, and I love it when he was able to one up Light, and Light was able to go through like a super convoluted fucking plan to get back at him. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely recommend it for those guys' is like synergy with each other. Uh, Next up is Yukiteru from Future Diary. This one is definitely a more personal one for me because Future Diary is one of the first animes I actually like went out to watch. Like this is what I consider like the first anime I've actually watched, like knowing 100% that it's an anime.
Yeah,
So,
this is the first anime you recommended to me.
and it's he's such a awesome character because of his relationship with which is like the yandere that you experience for the entire show, and you get to see his growth as a character, as a scared little shit to more of a more cocky person when he starts to accept more of Yuno's help through like this deaf game that they're in for the entire show. And he definitely shows a lot of cunning in some of his ways that he goes in the fights of the show. So it's really cool seeing his character shift, and it seems like everything really revolves around him in the series, which is really nice. But
I always get this show and Guilty Crown mixed up.
wow, yeah, Guilty Crown. I mean, what the hell is that guy's name? Shu or something?
I don't know.
The main
I
guy.
don't know. All I know is I finished this one. I dropped Guilty Crown in the first 4 episodes.
Yeah, I didn't. Future Diary is definitely more extreme than Guilty Gear, I would say. There's just constant blood and just murder.
I've never actually. I don't think I've heard. Maybe I have heard of Future Diary. I've never watched it. It's not even on my list to watch. But if it's on here, then
doesn't Future Diary have like a more popular Japanese name?
Yeah, it does. I don't really remember it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just my personal one I like. Now number 10, the hot take.
God, fucking damn it!
Let's go.
The hot take.
Hey,
Asta Pasta from Black Clover. God. I gotta say, I thought of like pretty much all of the like shonen shows like Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, all that stuff, and like I always remembered Asta. It's like Mitch is flashing like his Hunter x Hunter shit. Like I've actually watched that all the way through.
You should, bro.
But Asta Pasta has definitely got a special place in my heart. He starts off as a complete annoying little shit, right?
And he ends as a annoying little shit.
And then he ends as a complete, bigger, jacked, annoying piece of shit. And I love him for it. It's just one of those shows for me that you just kind of just get used to it. You get pulled into the Black Bulls, their synergy with each other, and you just kind of get used to Asta screaming, making an ass of himself. And, the more Black Clover went around, the more like powers he got and more accepting of like his devil power that he has. To now, like the point is like Asta is probably the most important character right now in Black Clover and will always be.
Well, he should be. He's the main character.
That, and he has like the anti-magic power, which seems to be like the most clutch thing in the entire show.
I mean, we can Trav, you and I had like a 40-minute argument about Asta at Megan's house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say why. So here's my relationship with Asta. The first 50 or so episodes, hated him. Could not stand him. I dropped the show twice because of him. Picked it back up because you guys kept saying it's really, really good. Got to the water temple arc. I was like, okay, I'm starting to like Asta. Asta's pretty cool. And then the writers completely just break his character, and it's unrecoverable after they break his character. He breaks his arms, or he can't use his arms after the water temple. He can't use his arms anymore. And he's like, he gets all down in the dumps, gets all depressed. He's like, but then he has this really emotional scene with himself on the rock where he's like, I will never quit ever again. I'm the wizard. I will never quit. I will never allow myself to feel this way. He loses to Yuno. He's like, I want to kill myself. I hate myself. I'm gonna give up all my dreams.
He lost to Yuno in that tournament?
Yeah.
Or was it just something else?
Oh, he didn't lose to Yuno, but Yuno did better than him.
Or yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was having such a fun time fighting against like the deer guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really remember why Asta was so bummed in that tournament, but when you mentioned that again, like I remember when I was making this list, I was like, I remember you made that point about the tournament, but then at the same time, I was like, well, no wonder, of course someone would get bummed about that for losing a fight. But now that you reminded me about that scene where he like screams into the moonlight, I definitely see where you're coming from.
If he wouldn't have had that scene where he promised to himself that he would never quit again, it would have made so much sense for him to get depressed after shows him up. Because Yuno's his foil. Yuno's what he wants to be. He's been chasing Yuno his whole life, and he finally thought he was better. But then Yuno's like, I'm just gonna go be the captain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense. But he promised us that he would never. And Asta is the type of character where he doesn't go back on his promises. And they just completely ruined it for some. And then like 2 episodes later, he's like, you know what, I'm fine. Because Yami was like, stop being depressed. He's like, okay, I'll stop being depressed.
after taking
It
like
made
6 shits.
no sense. So
He's
I
like
cannot.
he's like an airhead, right? He's super simple minded. Like he can have like those moments where he's so simple minded that when someone beats him, it's going to affect him like really strongly. But likewise, if someone he really admires tells him, I mean, shrug it off, dude. You got to work harder, and that's it. He's like, okay, yeah, shit, you're right. I think that's just his character. It doesn't make sense. He's just a He's just stupid.
But there's like there is I don't know
Well,
because
no, wait.
you could
To back up Mitch's point, that's like the whole shtick of Asta, though. Like he is like
yeah
full sail into his like convictions. So when he
yes.
goes against them, it makes it harder to support him.
And it was such like I understand why is so why being better than him is so important to him. It makes sense. But you can write a airheaded character that is dead set in their convictions and make them fall into the depression actually very, very realistic. Like the prime example for that is Naruto from the time Jiraiya dies till the time he fights Pain. That whole arc when Naruto trains for his Sage mode and then he sees Hinata die in front of him and he fucking snaps. That is brilliant writing of an airhead character being serious and depressed. Like to me, Asta is just a bootleg Naruto. I think Naruto is in every sense of the boot, like airheaded, like I'm gonna be Hokage character. Naruto's better in every sense of the way. So that's just me.
Yeah. And I personally really haven't been too into Naruto ever since Naruto and Sasuke like split up cuz I
Yeah.
just got so like disinterested in the series.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely sullied my opinion on the entire series. I mean, there's definitely good parts in it, but ultimately I just grown to like Asta's arrogant screaming, and it's always interesting to watch a character start from nothing to now grow and be pretty much the foil for everybody. I know that's definitely a huge trope when it comes to these types of shows, but
But
I
it's
don't
a
know.
shonen,
Yeah, that's just how it rolls. But
and like I don't hate Asta as much as I say I hate him. Like I still enjoy a Black Clover, and I still enjoy watching him. There's some like I enjoy Asta more in the scenes where nothing's happening and he's just goofing off with like Finral or Noel, and he's just being an idiot. Those scenes I enjoy, but it's when he tries. I don't know. I just don't like him when he's serious.
well, and plus I've looked ahead in like the manga and stuff, and like just the amount like the power difference and like all the characters is just super nutty, and I'm super excited to see him actually show up in like an animated form. It's gonna
Yeah,
be pretty dope.
last thing I'll say about Asta to me being having Yami, Mario Leona, and what's the other lion guy's name?
I don't remember.
Bergolian or something like that.
Yeah, Fuegoleon. Having those four characters in your show completely just suffocate you by being better characters than you. It's kind of hard to break through. Like those four characters are brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I guess my last point in saying like why I like Asta so much is that really shitty game Jump Force. I was an Asta main, so I loved screaming at motherfuckers the entire time. It was very satisfying. That game was complete jank, but at least Asta made it funny for me. So thank you, Asta. Keep doing you. But next up, Goblin
really,
Slayer. I
really,
Goblin Slayer is just a
This one coming.
W of a show. I have like there was no like downside to that show for me. I had loved it from beginning to end, and Goblin Slayer was definitely the best part for me. I just loved how cold and just logical he was. He didn't give a shit about being passionate. He'll like go out of his way for others, but like in like the most cold way possible. A guy asks him like, "Hey, we lost our weapons. What can we do? Just steal a weapon from a goblin. We're not fighting goblins. Soka.
Oh,
Ah,
so
Soka."
okay. Oh,
so I never finished this show. I got to the part where like the main party goes to fight that like water beast or like water dragon, and then I just stopped watching. Um,
Okay.
but no, I can see why you like him. He gives me like Arc 1 Guts vibes a lot.
Yeah. I definitely enjoy Guts a lot.
One
But
sec, guys.
but oh, and he
See ya.
broke it. Hey, now we have split view.
Oh my god, it's always me. I'm
So,
always the
We're
victim.
always the
Sorry,
split.
guys. Sorry,
You,
guys.
you broke the fucking
No,
layup.
I also saw this one coming. I fully expected this to be in your top 10 because I remember when you were watching this, you were just like all over fucking Goblin Slayer, throwing out the memes. Soka, so,
Soka. I
and
see.
he's
Wait, is that where it's from? So this
yeah,
okay.
Soka.
Yeah, and he's just completely ruthless and the way he fights, and like you said, super practical, very simple. I'm gonna find goblins. I'm gonna fuck them up. You got a quest? I'll only take it if it's goblins. Like,
Yeah, like, he's like the top tier rank adventurer, but he only fights goblins, right?
He's like
I
a
don't.
he's like kind of
Sure.
like a basic rank, kind of like a
Okay.
silver, I think. He's
I gotta
he's
watch
like
this.
he's like up there, but not like up there. You know, people know him, but they know him as like a weirdo.
People
I gotta
know
watch
him
this, but
that
skip
he's far
episode.
more capable of taking on higher ranked missions or getting promoted, but he's fully content in slaying every single goblin that exists,
Okay.
and that's all he
And
wants.
I did find out something about myself while making this list. I am very into like very calculated characters, meaning like they think strategically through situations. Goblin Slayer is a very prime example of this. He knows like 1,000 different ways to dispose of goblins, their hordes, their nests. He's checking to see if there's like a shaman or something like that. Like you see it in the first episode too. He's setting up like rope traps and he's like putting gasoline on a goblin and pushing it down. It's like it's stuff like that that really gets me into enjoying a character more to see how they're going to trick the opposition. So
Yeah, I
plus he
gotta
looks
rewatch it.
badass.
I gotta rewatch the show to skip episode 1 because
Mhm.
that shit fucking gave me
Just
nightmares.
Yeah,
skip
that's
like the first like 5 minutes.
no, that one was pretty.
It's
The first
really fucked
episode's
up.
like it doesn't play around. Like there's some dark
Yeah.
shit that's going on, but it needed to do that to introduce like how fucking bad goblins are in this universe.
Why he's so dead set on killing them
Mhm.
all. It was just very 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 graphic, and I was like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, it
Dude,
definitely gets lighthearted at a good amount of points in Goblin Slayer, but yeah, when it's dark, it's fucking dark, man.
If Goblin Slayer is number 9 for you, I thought he was gonna be ranked higher. Like, I'm just really interested to see what comes after this guy on your list.
Yeah, I don't even remember my own list right now, honestly, but yeah, Goblin Slayer is definitely good, but it's been a while since I've seen the show, so maybe I still really like him. But moving on. One that you guys will not know.
Okay.
No idea who this
Brutus
is.
from Jobless Reincarnation. This is another isekai
Oh,
character.
this guy. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like Jobless Reincarnation was a show like I watched like earlier this year, and it is just an absolute W of an isekai, in my opinion. It is like the generic, like some dude dies in the real world and then gets reborn into this new world, right? So it's a 35-year-old who dies for some reason and then gets reincarnated into this world with magic. And he finds out he has magical abilities and he's very proficient in it. So he gets trained by like, a big swordsman, gets trained with countless magics, and he gets sent to like a royal family to make money and stuff. It's just the character of Rudis is very calculated and he's very smart with his magical abilities. And there's like this big catastrophe that happens that pretty much splits him off from any of his like human contact. And it's just trying to get back home while protecting a significant other. And Rudis is a very grounded character because, he's a younger kid that has the knowledge of like a 35-year-old dude who was a complete, what's the word? A dude that doesn't like leave his room or some shit.
Shut in.
Yeah,
There's a word in Japanese for it. Yeah.
A neat.
A neat, yeah.
Something like
That's what
that,
it is.
yeah. But yeah, he got the 35-year-old dude got bullied like really badly. Like the bullying he experienced is just fucking terrible. So he just comes a complete shut in and just shuts off the world pretty much. And that definitely carries over into Rudis, and it's a journey of him getting past that anxiety and fear and living this new life, and just Rudis is kind of like Kazuma in a way where he acts like such a little shit when he knows he can get away with it, and it's really hilarious. Like there's a scene where he gets like captured and by these like tribe people, and they just keep him suspended in a cage. It's pretty big. It's like a little apartment, and they strip him completely like his clothes and stuff, and he just makes a complete ass of himself, like posing himself on the beds like, hey, you guys want some of this shit? Like, what's up? Keep fucking with me, find out, clean up my shit corner now. But yeah, if you haven't watched Jobless Reincarnation, I would definitely recommend it. Like, Rudis is just a fucking nutty character and very obviously mature for his age, and he's very clutch.
Cool.
But Mitch, any comments on the isekai character?
Well, I was gonna say just by this picture alone, he's giving me very much Cosmo vibes. So, like you
Yeah,
said,
he's a little shit, and he's a complete pervert. Complete fucking pervert.
That does not surprise me.
Yes.
well, it's an isekai. He has to be a pervert. Come on.
Mhm.
Yep.
But yeah, would recommend the show. But now we have Ayana Koji from Classroom of the Elite. Like I said before, I'm really into like the cold and calculated characters. So when they're like thinking like a couple moves ahead, and Ayana Koji is just that personified into a character. Like, even with what I've seen of season 2, he's still, trying to pull the strings from the back of Class D, and they keep getting dubs just because he's pulling the strings in the background. It's really cool to see him being cold and calculated towards his classmates and always trying to be one step ahead of everybody. It's really cool to watch.
Would you agree with this placement, Yusuf?
I, just thinking back to when I was making my list, I mean, I have a similar theme when it comes to characters I'm fascinated with, being that, you want that strategic mind, someone who's calm and collected and very calculative, and everything they do is with purpose. I just didn't remember enough about season 1 to feel confident in placing him anywhere, but it makes sense. I mean, that whole show, I mean, it falls into like that whole like psychological type of genre that I really like. And so had I remembered more about him, I probably would have put him somewhere on my list or close to my top 10. But I think I think it's a really good description of him.
It's
So
it's definitely a
I'm
show
glad you put him in
where
there.
it's definitely
Is
a show where everyone has like their own like ulterior motives for helping people, and
is this
Ayokoji
It's
can
like
definitely
everyone is
exploit
like
that.
selfish. Everyone's like selfish, but like with purpose, which is like really weird. Which is
Mhm.
like what Trav described. Like they have their own reasons for doing things, and I mean that's the selfish part of it, but it has like a greater purpose to it. I don't know. It's like super weird. Like you definitely have to watch the show.
yeah
It's not a long show either. I mean the
yeah
first season is what, 12 episodes. It's
is
definitely worth it.
I don't want to spoil your list, so if you don't want to answer, don't answer. But is this your favorite Classroom Elite character, Yusuf?
Um I would say for me it's the most memorable one.
Okay. And I was gonna say too, I find it so strange to me that both of you two are fans of the calculated and cunning and smart characters, and I'm a fan of the more like characters that act on their passions and make dumb mistakes because they're so passionate and so like strong-headed.
Mhm.
Like those are the characters I like to write. Those are the characters I like to read. Those are the characters I like to watch. So
I'll add a correction to mine. Yes, I like that, but you'll start to see like a split in my list somewhere,
Mhm.
and you'll kind of have an idea of like what type of characters I'm fond of. But
then
that's more to
again,
come later on that.
I say that, but then one of my favorite characters of all time is Lelouch, and he's the most calculated person ever.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were about to say Asta.
No, Aya Nakoji definitely makes the show for me. Like without him, the show it wouldn't be good, in my opinion. It'd just be a bunch of
He's the
people.
face of the anime. I mean, he's
Is he the protag?
He is, yes,
Yeah.
but he's like in the background pulling strings. Like they get a dub
he's a
on like a
mastermind.
competition. There's like, how the fuck did we win? He's just like their friend asks him about it, and then he's just like, yeah, I had to do this, and he does like a whole spiel how he like figured everything out, within like 2 seconds of the entire competition. It's like that shit like that is just, I don't know, it's awesome.
I love that too.
Definitely a good show, and I'm excited to watch more of season 2. But moving on, another calculated character that you guys don't
Nope.
know. Originally, this guy was at the top of my list.
He was
This,
number 1.
yeah, Ikta Salork in Alderman on the Sky. This is a show that I just kind of watched on a whim, and dude, it's this guy rocks with the Empire, the bad guys, but he really doesn't have a choice. He ends up becoming like a leader figure, and he had to like lead a bunch of their men, and pretty much all he wants to do is just live carefree and just not give a shit about anything. Like he just wants to research, chill, go through his entire life carefree. But because he lives in the Empire province, he's forced to go about all these fruitless wars, and he has to commit a bunch of terrible, like, kill a bunch of innocent people just in the name of the Empire and to protect himself and his men. And it's just, he gets into a situation where it's just like he has no reinforcements coming. He's completely fucked, and the Empire doesn't care about him, and he has to completely figure out a way through his smarts to pull through. And he is definitely a great example of one of those war shows that I enjoy, but from the opposite side. You're seeing it through the bad guy's perspective.
I
Nice.
like when shows do that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that twist because we more often than not, it's like you're part of the good guys, and they just so happen to be on the good side. But there's always like that. Um, I guess like a what if theory. Like, what if the good guys were
Well,
actually bad guys? So
well
maybe like a play on that.
I
Mhm.
like when fiction tackles the idea of perspective, because there's no such thing as good and bad. It's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So,
This is definitely a show that personifies that.
mhm.
I don't know how well I could recommend it. This is definitely like one of like the best shows I've watched, but it's personally just hitting all the check boxes for me. But it's kind of a hard sell. But yeah, Ikta is definitely very calculated, and he's just wants to live free, man, which is what I like. But moving on, Mitch.
Hey,
This is one that
hey.
I took from your list. I think this
So
is one of the last like very calculative characters. There's very strategic characters. Lelouch is the fucking goat when it comes to that shit, dude.
mm,
And I enjoyed every single scene Lelouch was in. It like Code Geass was that show that I always never wanted to watch because Nate in high school was just like,
yep.
you gotta watch this fucking show, bro. And just to shit on him, I was just like, nah, dude, I'm never gonna watch the show. Then years later, I finally watch it. And I'm like, damn, he was right. I should watch this sooner, bro. Fucking dude,
Yeah.
Lelouch is such a good character in this show.
Yeah. I watched this show. I was bored one day in my college dorm. I was like, fuck it, I've heard about this show. I'll watch it. I watched it in one night. It was brilliant. Such a good show. It's my second favorite anime of all time. Lelouch is he was 8 on my list. He's probably that was a miscalculation. He's definitely higher than 8. I mean, just the ending alone is the single greatest ending ever written in fiction, in my opinion.
then they
Like,
then they then they
they
retcon it in
fucking
a
ruined
movie.
it with the movie. It's
Yeah.
the ending is so fucking good,
Yeah.
man. And
I
there's
didn't
the
think they really
build,
needed the movie.
the build to that ending, and then the scene with Lelouch and his cousin. You know what scene I'm talking about, Trav? Where he accidentally does
Nonally
something.
or
Yeah. Natalie. No, not Natalie. It's his sister. His
I
cousin
know
was
what you're
with
talking
him.
about. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was like, well, what the
That
what the
was
hell?
like the biggest fucking twist ever. And then
If this,
because of that scene, the story went completely in a
yep.
different direction, and he was pretty much just forced to be responsible for it.
Like Lelouch won, he accomplished all his goals, and then he fucked it
He
all.
fucked it.
Wow.
Which is
Absolutely.
what I love about him too, is he's this calculated mastermind, genius level IQ, but he fails at the human level.
He's still a person though, and he's still
Yeah,
capable of
exactly.
making mistakes. And then
Exactly.
pretty much the rest of the show is him going full sail with his convictions, and he has to be so just ruthless with both his companions and other allies.
Mm-hmm. It's such a good show. If you
Yeah.
haven't watched the show, it is a must watch. It's so
I
good.
have
No,
not watched
and it's
it.
just like
but
after the dust is settled, you just feel so bad for Lelouch too, because it's like
Mhm.
it could have all been chill.
The ending's so good.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I'm definitely. I mean, it's on both your guys' lists,
Dude,
so
Lelouch is a goat, man. Seriously,
Yeah.
there's no like getting around it. Like every episode he's been in, I just enjoyed it. Obviously, he's in every episode, but every scene.
yeah.
Plus, the Gias
Sure.
is fucking cool. That's
Yeah,
the thing at his right eye, or his left eye.
Yeah,
Nice.
Lets him do mind
such a good
control.
show. Such a good
What's
show.
up, Doc?
Good character.
Plus, it's a war anime, and I love that kind of shit.
I mean, the thing too about Kogias is Lelouch, he carries the show, but he doesn't carry it that hard because there are a lot of really good side characters.
Yes,
so.
And just the world itself too is just it's a nutty show, man.
Yeah.
But moving on, Sora from No Game No Life. This is
I expected him to be higher.
But yeah, I actually completely forgot about him, to be perfectly honest.
Mm-hmm.
When I was making my list, Tyler chimed in because he was just looking through his anime list. He was like, "Hey, don't you have Sora on your list?" I was like, I fucking forgot. The one guy I've like No Game No Life is a similar show to like Future Diary, where it was pretty early on when I started watching like anime. And he's definitely like a character I fell in love with. He was just so ridiculous in like every aspect, and he's always one-upping impossible odds. It was so crazy to see. It's so crazy to see like a normal human dude just go against all the odds and be able to thrive in a world that's pretty much structured around just winning games.
He outmaneuvers and outmanipulates a god, right?
And just by using his sister too.
The my favorite scene from that show.
Shout out, hey.
My favorite scene from that show is the rock paper scissors scene where he completely just mind fucks that like, fuck you.
If I choose paper, he's just gonna choose rock. But maybe he's expecting me to choose scissors. Yeah. And the next thing you know, she's finally like, all right, I'm gonna pick this. And it shows like a scene with him just smiling, like the most shit-eating grin on his face. He's like, no, he saw that coming too.
Yeah. Totally
and next thing you know, he was like, well, before the whole rock, paper, scissors, he's just like, I'm only gonna pick rock.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna pick rock. You pick whatever. And sure enough, right when they did it, he still picked rock. Fucking won. Mm-hmm. Great scene.
Yeah, I love that scene.
No, Sora is definitely once you get past like all the like fanfare that they just fucking force feed you in the show.
A fucking weird show, dude.
It's a tough pill to swallow with all the fanfare and shit, but I definitely appreciate all the stakes that they put themselves into. And I'm really into like gambling shows too. Like Kakaguri is a really good example of that, and Sora is definitely.
I was gonna say this is another smart, calculated, manipulative character.
I know, Mitch, I forgot my list. Okay, I thought Lelouch was the last one. But yeah, No Game No Life, a lot of fanfare. Sora's a goat, and his sister's a fucking goat too. But
it's worth the watch for sure. Just for him, it's worth the watch.
And just to see the stakes they put themselves into and how they try to outsmart the opposition.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on. JoJo's character. Wow. So I have binged through all of
Me.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Uh, and I gotta say, out of all the characters, like part one is like okay. You know, it introduced you to the mechanics of the world. It introduces you to a couple different characters. So I was like, I don't really see the appeal of the show. I don't get it. You know, it's silly and there's some cool fighting here and there. And then part two happens and you're introduced to Joseph Joestar. Holy fucking nutsacks, dude. This guy is a fucking man child and I love it.
Isn't he only the protagonist for season 2 though? Like, don't they have a new protagonist every season?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Joseph is the main character of part two of Bizarre's Adventure. But he does make an appearance in part three, in certain scenes. And I just love how unpredictable he is. He's just like there's like one scene where he like uses his power to like shoot like a bottle cap through a soda and that breaks like a cop's like finger, so it stops him from pulling the trigger, saving this kid's life. It's like shit like that. Or like a guy annoyed him at a restaurant, so he like used his power to like sharpen the noodles he was eating and he shot them at him too.
The fuck?
Literally, like the best part of this character is that he'll just be like, he's getting completely shit on. He has no way out. His back's against the wall. And then, you know, he's about to get fucking owned. And then he's like, all right, time to pull out my almighty move, my unstoppable, unforgiving move. Run away! And he runs away like a complete bitch. I don't care as long as I live. So Joseph takes part one, completely flips it on his head, and it made me really enjoy JoJo's Bizarre Adventure at that point. So part two, absolute high point for me, and it definitely made me a fan of JoJo's. So would recommend. Just gotta get through part one, and then you get to the crazy shit where Joe's like, I just skinned the surface, man, with this character. He does a ton of weird shit, but that's why it's called Bizarre's Adventure, you know?
The only thing I know about JoJo's is Kono Diota and Zoardo.
The world.
I love that name.
No, yeah, Dio. No, yeah. There's a lot of memorable characters in JoJo's, so there's definitely if part one doesn't give you a character or part two, you know, part four or maybe five will give you a character that you enjoyed, but that's a lot of JoJo's to go through. But yeah, that is it for 3 then. So number 2, I'm excited to see Mitch's face. Boom. Dragon Ball Z.
I knew it was coming. It's just you're lost to the shit stirring of Dragon Ball, so that's okay.
Gohan is definitely like one of the more popular characters in the series because at the start of Dragon Ball, you're introduced to him as a child and you get to see him go through all these traumatic events. And it's just one arc after another. It goes from point A to point B to point C, and it's just constant. Like, you see this little kid that goes from a scared little shit to being trained to still being a scared little shit, but then slowly growing more and more confidence. And, you know, it gets to the point where you get to the scene where all that comes into focus with this one transformation here. It's such a huge scene for the character, and even in future arcs, he becomes a GOAT. He's not number 1 on the list. He was for a bit, but in like the newer like Dragon Ball Super shit, it's like they completely they turned him into a father, and you know, he's just kind of a scholar, which makes sense for his character, but he's not as badass as he used to be. The shit's getting good now with like the newest released movie, but you know.
What I will say is I don't like Dragon Ball at all, but from what I know about Dragon Ball, the 2 characters I think I would like 3 characters I think I would like the most are Gohan, Trunks, and Vegeta. So
those are definitely the popular ones, yeah. Yeah, I think you would definitely enjoy Vegeta. Mm-hmm. Just for like one of the last arcs of Z too. Like, there's some crazy scenes with him, but yeah. I definitely grew up watching Dragon Ball Z with, just me and my brother, and like it was during a time too where they didn't get past like a certain arc, so they would just rerun the show. So
Hmm.
you get to a certain point where like Goku like finally turns Super Saiyan and it just reset, and we back at point one, and we just keep watching the show over and over like fucking 20 times, dude. So
Like
it's definitely a show I can probably never get away of.
Dragon Ball, I don't like it, but I understand its legacy and I understand its importance in like the future of anime. What are you laughing at, bro? What are you laughing at, Yusuf?
Nothing, man.
What are you
I'm just
laughing
looking at
at?
I'm just looking at my list, dude. You'll know it when you
Oh,
see it.
I just like I understand it's the godfather of anime, right? Without Dragon Ball, Naruto doesn't exist, Black Clover doesn't exist, nothing exists without Dragon Ball. So I appreciate it for that reason, but I just don't like it.
Yeah, but yeah, that is definitely one of the high points in Dragon Ball was this character's like big moment where his character finally came together. But yeah, now for the number one, do Edward.
Really?
Fuck.
Really?
Yes.
Fuck.
Mm-hmm. Are you shocked?
Wow. I'm very shocked.
What are you thinking?
I just don't like Edward that much.
I agree with that. Like I appreciate the show. Like it's a really good show. I mean, my opinion is more uncommon, but I don't think it's like everyone's like, oh, it's a must watch. It's a must watch. It's a good show. I think it's fine. It's like if you watched it, great. I don't think it's a must watch. I think it's a
Well,
really good one though. I
I
don't really care for like like one character so much
well,
to put on.
I would disagree
uh,
with that fact. I just think Edward is not even the fifth best character in his own show.
There's a lot of really good characters
Because
in
like
Full Metal
I,
Alchemist.
on my top 25, I have two Full Metal characters. Technically three, but two are merged. I think Mustang's better. I think uh, Armstrong's
Envy.
better. I think the female Armstrong's better.
Did you say Envy was also
And
in yours?
I think Envy's better, but Greed Ling, like, but I mean, explain why you like Edward.
Well, for Edward, I've started this series with watching the original Alchemist. So I know what happens in that series, and I've also watched Brotherhood. So I've experienced both, sides of the coin for this entire series. And through it all, I've always enjoyed all the interactions Edward's had with the co-cast and just the growth he's gone through as a character, always relying on alchemy and always seeing it as a crutch and being able to be a little, you know, be more humbled near the end of the series where he realizes it's not the cure all. And it's just, he's completely silly, always calculated. I love his whole clap shit where he's able to transmute and shit.
Mhm.
Just all his actions, his motivation. Like, I'm just in for it, man. It's just great. All the bits he has where he doesn't like being called short or not drinking any milk. I enjoyed it all.
Was the first like the Full Metal Alchemist, was that one more reflective of the manga, or was it
No,
the other way around?
I think Brotherhood
Oh,
was more loyal to it because with the original Alchemist, they made an original ending to it because I don't think the
manga
manga was
wasn't
done at
finished.
that point, and the ending was ooh, yikes, little
I
yikes. But then Brotherhood just definitely, it literally just, whew, Brotherhood is so fucking good.
Edward is like when I say I was surprised, he's still a brilliant character. Like that's the thing about that show, and I don't understand. I think the hottest take we've had so far tonight is Yusuf saying Full Metal is not a must watch because
I
I think Full Metal is the pinnacle. It's not my favorite anime, but I think it is the best written anime, and it's just overall the best anime you can watch.
at the very least too. Full Metal is the easiest anime I could recommend for someone that wants to get into watching anime.
I was gonna say yeah because I think it's the anime that it has those anime tropes like Trav said like the Edward joking about the shortness and it has those goofy moments, but it's the anime that feels most like a Western written like live action TV show
And
with the politicking and all that stuff.
especially Brotherhood, it's a show that has a start and actually has a really good ending. Like there's no more bullshit
Mhm.
past that point. It's over. It ended. That's the ending, and it's just a satisfying watch through.
There's no cringy fan service. There's no weird stuff like it's just it's
Except when he like
fucking
pulls off the coat and shows off his fucking
yeah, but
metal
that's
arm and shit. And it looks cool as fuck.
yeah, bro. But that's for us.
Okay, don't
Yeah.
they have like some like what's her name again? Winfrey or whatever?
Winry?
Winry.
Winfrey, sorry. Don't they have like a little bit of fan service with her?
Okay, yeah, but like having one like a scene where she's changing is not fan service. Fan service is when they dress a female character in a bikini the entire show and she bends over like, "Hi, my name is blah 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 blah." That's fan
And
service.
this is
That's
one
my
like
favorite
one
character.
female
It's like
character
one
versus like
scene.
every
Yeah,
single female
exactly,
character.
exactly.
Yeah.
So no,
No.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is phenomenal. Edward
Yeah.
is great. I just think he's carried by his cast a little bit.
Mm.
So
Yeah. I mean, I like a good amount of the cast. I mean, there's very few characters that I dislike in
yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
Full Metal, but Edward is just the one I enjoyed watching the most, and just his fighting and his cunning and just him using his alchemy is always really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, now that we're past the honorable mentions, time to get to the Camardi list of the best 10 characters in Camardi.